Hello and welcome to the Marketing Woman podcast. I'm your host, Anusha Khannan, and it is great to have you here. Are you looking to move into marketing or want to learn marketing from scratch? We discuss all things marketing, analytics, business, personal branding, and much more in a way any layman can understand. If you're new here, make sure to follow along and get on that email list by visiting tmw.anushakhannan.com. And now let's dive in. Before we get into this week's episode, I'm going to share what I've been up to. For a long time now, I've been trying to implement deep work into my calendar. If you're not aware of what deep work is, I would 100% suggest that you read Deep Work by Cal Newport. On my calendar, I have a few hours every day blocked for deep work, and I also have an Apple ecosystem, so I enable this focus mode that is called deep work, where nothing gets through, not even an emergency phone call. Usually this is enabled from around 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. Sometimes I finish my tasks a lot earlier at 7, or I start a bit late depending on my day, but I make sure that it is an uninterrupted time and I don't do school or work stuff. I work on things like reading, writing, recording a podcast episode. It is like 4:30 a.m. here and I'm recording this episode, and this requires such immense concentration from me. Deep work is my go-to. But deep work is not highly appreciated in a lot of workspaces, especially because you might mostly work with someone else and the space for that is very limited. I definitely try and take some time for myself, but as I progress into the real work world, we will find out how I'm going to balance that. All right, now today's episode. This episode is going to be Marketing Foundations 101. If you've ever taken any marketing course, you've heard everything I'm going to talk about here. We're going to go through sections and you can pick a timestamp from the description and skip anywhere you want to. Let's start with section 1. Let's start with this opening question professors usually ask. What is marketing? Take a second to think about it before I share my perspective. You ready? It's creating value. That is the core concept. You understand your customers and your business's needs and then create a value proposition. Now, what is this value proposition? In Target, there are two kinds of hazelnut spreads that I've noticed. One is Nutella or Nutella, and the other is this another brand. Nutella is $5, somewhere around $5, and whereas this other brand is approximately $2.99. The taste is absolutely different, but to me, the value proposition here is I get a hazelnut spread that's cheaper. So I'm going to go and get the $2.99 one. But it could be different for other customers. This is where marketing plays a huge role. Now, let's start off with section 2 and we'll see the key elements of marketing. There are 5 things: 7 P's, 4 P's, market research. We've talked about customer segmentation and targeting. And lastly, creating a marketing plan. But we're going to see 3 of these today. We're going to see 7 P's, market research, and marketing plan. 7 P's and 4 P's. I'm just going to explain that in one because initially it was 4 P's, but then in 1981, 2 people, Booms and Bittner, added 3 more P's to it to create an integrated marketing mix. Therefore, it's 7 P's now. But let's start with a story time. I started a stationery line back in 2020 and I used 7 P's without even knowing it. I started my stationery line on Instagram and it was quite expensive for a stationery line because of the quality of the paper. I sold planners and custom made notebooks, often ran Facebook ads and had email signups. Custom made notebooks was a good touch for the business, and I was a solopreneur, so I had to have all kinds of conversations with all kinds of customers. And I put up Instagram stories and highlights every time someone messaged me about them liking the product. And that's the story. And that's also 7 P's.
Nope.
Oh, yes. 7 P's. Let's start with number 1, place. I started the business on Instagram. Number 2, price. It was expensive because of the quality of the paper. Number 3, product. I sold planners and custom-made notebooks. Number 4, promotion. I ran Facebook ads and had email signups. Number 5, process. Custom-made notebooks was a key selling point. Number 6, people. I was a solopreneur. I was customer facing, therefore representing the energy of my brand. Number 7, physical evidence. I had Instagram stories and highlights of all testimonials. That's pretty much it. Email me and tell me if you ever did anything and that touched at least 4 of these principles. Now, we're not done yet. We still have a lot to cover. Before we move on to section 3, a quick recap. The 7 P's are place, price, product, promotion, process, people, and physical evidence. Now, moving on to section 3. Market research. It's one of the most important components in a marketing strategy. You need to figure out who your target audience is. That's how you get started. And then you have to gather data to support your choice. This will help your business make informed decisions. Now, you're trying to understand where you have opportunities and where you might have challenges in the market. There are 2 types of market research methods, primary and secondary. Primary market research is a lengthy, tedious, yet a fruitful process. But small businesses usually go for secondary market research since that's cost effective, especially if they have very little budget. Primary market research is reaching out to people in different forms. It could be surveys, focus groups, interviews, market observation, and they are also very qualitative in nature, whereas secondary is you searching the internet, reading books on the subject matter, collecting data from newspapers. But what can we do with all this information gathered from this market research? We have to analyze and interpret to identify key insights and trends. This can be done in many different ways, which is pretty deep and technical, something to think about in the future. But once this process is complete, this will help you come up with effective marketing strategies that are more personalized. So, market researchers are a type of analyst that help you identify what can and can't work with the target audience. With that, let's move on to section 4. Marketing plan. I'm going to give you an overview of a marketing plan, but make sure to remember that each business can add or drop various factors in a marketing plan, and you can see how 7 P's, market research, customer segmentation, and targeting play into this. We start by understanding the target audience and then establishing marketing goals. For example, for quarter 1, we're going to focus on increasing the number of product inquiries and impressions on our social media posts. And then we move on to our, what I like to call is our to-do list. It's like, how are we going to accomplish our 2 goals? For example, you could say that, I need to post 3 times a week on social media. But you could also go deeper into that by saying, these are the kinds of posts that I'm going to do. This is my goal for that. This is how much inquiry I'm expecting out of this. This is how much impressions I aim to reach, or you could say that you want to do email marketing and you could also host an event to increase inquiries. But the next step would be to stop and measure the process you've set in motion, tracking metrics. We need to analyze metrics such as impressions, email open rates, email sign-up rates, etc. But to make all of this work, you need a budget and a timeline. So, for example, say that for quarter 1, you need $3,000 for this marketing plan. Come up with an expected ROI, and you've got yourself a little marketing plan. With that, we're moving on to our final section, number 5, the conclusion. We learned the basics of marketing foundations. We looked at the definitions of marketing as creating value for customers, understood the 7 P's of marketing as product, price, place, promotion, people, physical evidence, and process. We looked at all of these using my personal experience of using these principles in my stationery line business. We also looked at the importance of conducting market research and analysis and how to develop a marketing plan. That's all for today. Hope you found it useful. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Please share it with anywhere, with anyone you can think of. I would appreciate that. And you can email me at tmw@anoshakhanna.com. Follow me on LinkedIn to never miss my journey. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.